listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Radio's authority on the world of the paranormal and the science of parapsychology. Celebrating 25 years of broadcasting. Broadcasting around the world and to the great beyond.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X-Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Ruff McConnell.
And welcome back to the X-Zone, everyone. This is a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. My name is Ruff McConnell. We're coming to you from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. My guest this hour is Guy Ruff. He is a self-proclaimed guy who does things for fun and interest. Let me see, a theoretical, futuristic, conceptual scientist. He holds a training certificate with MUFON as a field investigator. Alien technology fascinates him, hoping one day to get the chance to have some part of reverse engineering. His hero is Townsend Brown, an inventor and scientist that was involved in electrogravities, also flat panel speakers and bladeless air fan. Joining me now is Guy Ruff. And Guy, welcome to the X-Zone.
Hi, Rod. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good, Guy.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. Tell us a little bit about yourself and what your interest is in ufology.
Finding the truth. It's really difficult when you got people describing an object to you, and you really can't catch it and paint it green, is the way I look at it. You can't catch it and hold it. So truth is really important, and getting the fact is really difficult. I think it's the most important top secret mission that anybody can be involved with. And it's actually listed with the federal government. It's top secret. Any type of UFO artifact, they gobble up quick.
Why do you
just imagine if they have... Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask you why you thought the governments of the world are doing this. What do they have to gain? And, you know, I find it so crazy that they're trying to dispel and cover up something that millions of people already know exist.
Well, look at Bill Gates. He operated in a garage and came up with a computer system that made him filthy rich. Imagine if you come up with something that can make your car float off the earth and has an unlimited power source. That would make you basically the king of the world. Something that can go 100 times the speed of light. Well, imagine what that could do for you in power of the world. And the United States government is scared of everybody, and they should be, because we have so many enemies in this world.
What was it that got you interested in UFOs and you know, that brought you to the point where you actually joined MUFON and became a field investigator?
I was involved. I was riding my motorcycle one time, and we're going through across Pennsylvania, my girlfriend and I, and we came to this park, a state park, and this state park was called World's End Campground. And it was odd. I mean, it just happened to be called World's End Campground. It's in the middle of Pennsylvania. And we pull up into this park, and the sheriff or the ranger said, hey, tonight we're going to have a scientist here from the main observatory in Ohio, and these scientists will be setting up telescopes, and we'll be looking at Saturn the moon, or whatever junk they could find in the heavens.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, wow. So that night we went up there, and this place is absolute darkness. I mean, if you don't have a flashlight, you're falling on your face. It is so dark there. So we go up to this little campground. We're in the campground. We go over my motorcycle, and they had all these great big telescopes set up, huge telescopes. And I don't know how much you want me to explain how in-depth this whole thing was, but one of the guys fascinated me because he talked so fast, and he reminded me of that crazy guy in Kramer.
Oh,
he
yeah.
just talked off the shelf. I mean, he was crazy, and he was telling me about stuff on the planets, showing us Saturn. And then he says, you wouldn't believe what the United States government has been doing with your money. And I go, well, explain to us. He says, well, we've been landing on planets or moons where they have rivers of liquid methane flowing on the surface. And we landed on it with a probe and got like a 10-second picture before it broke up, blew up, or crushed. We landed on planets where the pressures are so intense and spent billions of dollars to do this. And years. It takes years to do this. This isn't something you do overnight. And then I said, well, what do you do? I mean, what do you do for a living? He says, well, I don't work. And I said, what do you mean you don't work? He goes, well, I work once a year. I'm the guy that does the math for when you send a spaceship to a planet. I do the math to plan the route that the spaceship goes. I work once a year. I get paid to do that. And so this guy's like a genius mathematician, astrophysicist. He's like beyond normal. Well, he starts out with a pointer. Mm-hmm. You know those laser pointers that the planes are all mad about? He starts pointing at this weird, big, silver object in the sky. And it was way out there. And I'm looking at this thing, and I'm a hunter, so I have this thing about not blinking when I see really strange stuff. And like when you ride your motorcycle, you don't really want to blink that much because sometimes things jump out in front of you, and you need that time. He points this laser at the big silver thing, and I said to him, "Is that Space Lab?" He goes, "No, it's not." He goes, "I don't know what it is." At that moment, a bright light came out of it and came right down next to me. I kid you not. I kept my eye open the whole time. It came right down in less than 2 seconds. It was right there next to me. It was as bright above as it was in front of me. And I get a glass of water. And this thing, it was an orb. They call it an orb. The center of it was black. You could look into it. Mm-hmm. If you look at an electric motor, you see an aura coming off an electric motor. It's the ozone around the electric motor. It's like the light in a fluorescent tube. There's no beginning or end to it. It looked like a little fuzzy ball of light. And it was like orange and blue. And I'm colorblind. I'm the worst colorblind you can ever get. But you could feel this thing. It was there. At first I thought, oh, it's got to be a light bug, fire bug or something like that. The little bugs that light up. Mm-hmm. And I kept my eye on it, and it went right on the roof line, and it stopped. And I'm like, now most fire bugs don't do that. And I kept my eyes on. Well, the crowd moved away. They moved up the hill, and I'm watching this thing. And then it went down the side of the gutter, and I felt like it thought I was staring at it. And I was. I was just like totally, I was freaked. My hair on my head was standing on end. I was just like, wow, what is this thing? So I backed away from it and acted like I really wasn't watching it. It came back out. And I'm not even 12 feet away from this thing. And I could look at it, and I could see to the center, and it's black. And you couldn't see through it. But it was just like a black dot in the center. Like it was a cavity. And then it moved down the walkway. So I started following it like an idiot. scared, but I wanted to know what is this thing. You know, it was weird. I was in a trance, and I'm inquisitive. I'm one of the kind of guys that'd be scared to death of something, but yet I'll go and approach it. You know, so I guess I'm too stupid for my being. So I follow this thing. Next thing I know, my girlfriend's yelling at me. She's going, "Guy, come back here. Come back here." And she sees it. And she's wondering, you know, what am I doing? She's scared. And the crowd just moved away. And finally she got my attention. It's just like, but I watched this thing. It would go up over the top of the trees, all around us, and it would just kind of buzz around us. And it was just, it made things glow behind it. Mm-hmm. It was really close to the building. It actually made the gutters glow on the building. And it was such a soft little light, kind of like the light that you get in a solar light that you buy at General Dollar. It's just a little LED light, but it was very bright. Mm-hmm. It was very bright, but it was soft, like a little cushy little furry ball. Well, that kind of went away, and I got my wits about me, and I went up to the group, that crazy guy that was talking really fast, and I said to him, I go, "Tell me, did you see that?" And he just looked at me and goes, "I saw a lot of things I can't explain tonight." And he saw it. He saw it. But he moved the crowd away from it because I think he realized they would be scared. They'd be petrified by what they saw. And I kept my eye on it the whole time. I bet I didn't blink 3 minutes. I mean, just watching this thing, I was like, wow, I want to know more. And after that, I started researching more into it. Now, I've always been a science buff. I've always been into it. I mean, I've probably watched every Star Trek ever done. Every, I get lost for words. Like they go in the future through a big ring.
Sure.
What the heck that can call it? Stargate. You know, mm-hmm. And a lot of these movies are based on science. A lot of it is, though some of it might be far-fetched. But this particular object, through MUFON, I've researched, is very prevalent around the world, especially in Switzerland and Lake Erie. Lake Erie gets these weird lights over the water, and they're during the summer. There's times where they see them every night out over the water.
Any idea? Any idea what these lights are?
Oh, well, I'm come to the conclusion that alien technology, is a lot more different than what we think it is. Mm. I think that it's more spiritual. I think that if you're a being, ancient civilization, how old can you imagine they could be? I mean, man's been on Earth for approximately 50,000 years, but yet that number keeps changing all the time. I mean, at one point they said 7,000 years. Then they go 8,000, then they go 10, and then they go 14,000 for Atlantis. You got the Hindus; they've been around a long time, and I mean that's verified. They've been around a long time.
That's right.
And they've been around 1,000 years before Christ. And there's writings to this. I mean, they got the 4 different books that they've got out that talk about their way of being. I mean, then you got the crazy giants, the Nephilim giants that supposedly walked the earth, that were a byproduct of aliens visiting the earth and messing around with man. They're finding these bodies, these skeletons all over the place. These guys are giants. Then imagine if we've been on this earth for, let's say, 50,000 years. Well, we're like babies. Imagine a planet that's been around, a being that's been around for 20 billion years. How much will they know? That's what you got to look at. And reverse engineering is going to be scary because we're going to come across some stuff that's going to scare the pants off it. That's what's going to happen.
Do you think that there has been actual reverse engineering when it comes to extraterrestrial UFOs?
That's really hard to peg. because mankind naturally has the ability to come up with ideas on their own.
Right.
I mean, they come up saying, like fiberglass, fiber optics. They said that was a byproduct of the Area 51's research in Roswell crash. And Roswell is nothing. There's been crashes of immense proportions on this planet that they hide. I mean, Bigelow himself has a team of people that will come down on a site, and they'll come down and they'll be physically aggressive to take whatever they can take. And Mr. Bigelow is a filthy rich man. And he's in the portable units that go in the space lab. It's like a container that attaches to the space lab. Mr. Bigelow, it's called Bigelow Aeronautics. He wanted to know through the Skinwalker Ranch. I believe he bought it, but he was trying to find out what the heck's going on with these beings, these spirit beings, or these aliens that can change shape or become somebody. Even John Ventry made a comment to me in a meeting about this whole thing with aliens is rather frightening. And I believe that if you're an alien that's got 20 billion years on us, and you're they want, or they could absorb our minds. Even our own U.S. government has been involved in remote viewing, and that's a fact too.
Yeah, but remote viewing, has been taught to the military. Russell Targ is one of the fathers of remote viewing, and he's not an extraterrestrial. He's a real down to earth guy.
Well, do you think these abilities are just a naturally developed phenomena? I believe that we have accumulated knowledge from these aliens. I think knowledge is power. And I think for an alien that's 20 billion years old, their abilities are going to be beyond ours. They're going to be frighteningly beyond ours. Like right now, we're just getting into additive printing. And additive printing is taking small particles and basically gluing them onto an object and making objects with it. Well, if you have the ability to change something on a molecular level, these aliens, I was listening to a program called Coast to Coast. And this I kind of put an outline out on this for you when I wrote. I think I got off track here. But Coast to Coast, there's this guy talking about how he was abducted. And I looked up this case. He said he was abducted, and the aliens told him that they were not what you think they are. They said the spaceship's alive, not them. They are regenerated. They said, do you really think we can go such vast distances in flesh? Do you think that we could go so fast in vast distances in flesh? Because it may take a long time to get here. And so, we're working with cryonics and different things like that. And I think that these aliens, I do, like the question that you said is, I think we are accumulating ancient alien technology through the pyramids and uncovered Earth artifacts. Go to Ancient Aliens on History Channel, watch every single one of them, and you'll say to yourself, there's a lot more going on than what meets the eye.
Well, let me ask you something here. What have you done? What investigating have you done where you've actually seen or discovered evidence without watching a TV show or listening to a radio show?
The only evidence you ever see that usually most MUFON guys see is photography. And I'm going to be honest with you, it's always fuzzy. And I think a lot of that it has to do with is the spectrum of light we're dealing with. When you're dealing with gamma rays, the human eye might see. Have you ever seen welding? You ever seen somebody weld an object?
Sure.
With an arc welder?
Yep.
You can't look at it.
No.
The light is so intense it burns your retina. It'll just destroy your retina. Well, these guys that are getting around, these beings or these ships that transform and change in their extreme brightness, you can see them with your eyes. You can see them with your eyes, though I would bet we're not seeing what the object really looks like, as we found out from the Rosetta comet. The gamma rays are so intense that we can't really see the actual object. We can see a bright light, we might see an outline, but we don't see the object because the energy levels it's given off are so bright. Now, when you use a camera, it just washes the picture out. You see little pin drops, you see a pin light, or it's blurry. The camera can't pick up the object.
All right, but what about... But what about the new cameras, the new high-definition cameras, super pixel cameras? You know, how come we can't get those all-conclusive photographs with the newest technology?
Again, the spectrum of light must be so far out there that we just can't. And I question that myself. I say every human being in the world has an iPhone, it seems like. And these phones can see things, see the eyeballs on a fly. They can take pictures of the moon in super high contrast, but yet they can't get a decent picture of a UFO. And I've actually put the quest out on YouTube, because I can be pretty negative. I dare somebody to produce a picture, a real picture of a UFO. I'm talking with doors on it, insignias on it, gases coming out of it. Waves come off the surface when it takes off. The depression it does into the air when it moves. I mean, these things are clocking 8,000 miles per hour. And then they stop and turn and go the opposite direction, 8,000 miles an hour. They used to be called Foo Fighters during World War II. They'd follow the bombers around. And these things were like crazy. And up in Seattle, Washington, or Alaska, a 747 pilot was flying, and I believe it was a Japanese pilot. And he was outstanding. He had long career. He saw this thing. It was like twice as big as a 747. It dwarfed the plane. And if this thing's flying along, like a 747 cruises probably, 30,000 feet. It probably cruises about close to 550 miles an hour, in and around there. I'm a mechanic of airlines as a full-time career.
Oh, I see.
So, they generally fly around 500 miles an hour, because anything over above 600, you're talking breaking the speed of sound. Okay? And so the commercial jetliners, that's where they fly, around 500, 600 miles an hour, right around there at 30,000 feet. Now, a UFO flying at that speed, at that size, and that dimension of a large round, it looks like a big football, but it's round. It's flying through the air. Well, that would cause such an air disturbance, and whatever energy force it has, it's got to be moving air around it, and it's got to be disturbing the living daylights out of the aircraft as it's flying along. It calls in, the tower sees it, even the military tower sees it. They squash that information because the United States government don't want people knowing that there's blimp-sized UFOs that dwarf an airplane flying around there. It's kind of hard on business because people get scared to death and they look out the window and see this gigantic UFO. I don't know about you, but that would kind of startle me. The solid proof for me to find, it's really hard to find. It really is. It's very, to get a report where it has consistency, it has material. I'll be lucky in a lifetime to come across something. I'd be lucky, because if there is a crash, if there is something, our United States government will have somebody there. They'll have an F-18 or an F-16 over that area within 20 seconds. It will be there, and the military will surround that area, and they'll cordon that area off. And if they have to, they'll shoot to kill to keep that information from getting out to the Chinese or the Russian government. In fact, MUFON, part of the handbook says, if there's a crash, I'm not supposed to go near it because the crash site could have contaminants. Mm-hmm. I mean, we're talking about a spaceship or an entity, and who knows what's coming out of that thing.
But let me ask you this. If a spacecraft is coming through the atmosphere, and we know that when a spacecraft returns, even the shuttle, it goes through a very high rate of friction that burns everything off the bottom. They have the heat-resistant tiles where the craft makes an angle and comes down, protecting the inners and the astronauts as well. How come there's no danger when the shuttle returns? We see pictures of people and vehicles going right up to it. So why would there be this danger if a UFO was to come down?
You know, I'm gonna have to correct you on that. Okay. There is a danger from the shuttle coming down. Mm-hmm. For one, Japan just had a nuclear plant explode, and that radioactive dust is up in the hemisphere. Not only that, I can't remember how many bombs, nuclear H-bombs, nuclear bombs had been exploded on the surface of the Earth.
Okay.
For example, at my job, the radome on an aircraft. Now, I'm not an aircraft mechanic. I'm a ground support mechanic. I'm a heavy equipment mechanic. But all mechanics know, do not touch the radome, even the forward-leading edge of the aircraft. Because when it flies through the atmosphere, at like 30,000, no, not just static, radiation. The dust from the nuclear bombs from the 50s and the 60s that were let off, that John Wayne died from, is still floating in the air.
Well, yeah, that's common knowledge, yeah.
Yeah, that is floating on the surface of it. That's floating in the air. It probably will be for the next 1,000 years. And when that plane comes down, the shuttle comes down through that, or even a 747 or common commercial plane at 30,000 feet. Mm-hmm. For example, when a volcano goes off, they always say, we got to cordon this area off because that dust from the volcano is very abrasive. It'll mess the engines up. And you look at it and go, well, gee whiz, that's really far away. How could that do that to the aircraft?
Right.
And it does. It just scrapes the daylights out of the airplane. The air is clear, but the dust is in the air, and it's like an abrasive.
Hey, Guy, I hate to do this. I've got to take a break. Please stand by. Exo Nation, Guy Ruff is our guest this hour. And we're talking about UFOs and much more. Guy is a field investigator with MUFON, and his hero is Townsend Brown, an inventor and scientist that was involved in electrogravities. Also, flat panel speakers and bladeless air fan. We're going to be speaking more to Guy on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. Don't go away, X Zone Nation. You're listening to the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
Little children aren't the only ones afraid of the dark. Millions of soldiers return from war zones with PTSD, anger, frustration, fear, and loneliness, much of which surfaces during the darkness of the night. You have the chance to change the lives of these American heroes. Songs and Stories for Soldiers.us provides free MP3 players for these men and women. With a list of 3 million songs in 16 different styles, 100,000 audiobooks, and 30,000 old-time radio programs, every veteran can find something to soothe and comfort them at no cost. All our players contain an 8-hour audio program designed to help veterans fall asleep. With 1,500 plus vets now participating, it's our goal to deliver 10,000 audio players this year. Go to our website at songsandstoriesforsoldiers.us. Help us help a veteran make it through the night.
The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com.
Do you think you have energy problems in your home? Do you feel better when you're away than when you're home? Joey Korn is a global leader in the world of dowsing who specializes in personal energy clearing and space clearing. He can help you create an ideal energy environment in your home no matter where you live in the world. Learn about his remote spiritual house cleaning services and much more at www.dowsers.com. You can get Joey's book, Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment, as well as other dowsing books and tools, Kabbalah books, and Walter Russell books. Joey's work is really amazing. Go to dowsers.com right now. That's DOWSERS.com or call 1-877-DOWSING. That's 1-877-369-7464. With each new extreme weather event or terrorist act, it becomes increasingly obvious that we live in uncertain and challenging times. We all buy car insurance. Why not collapse and catastrophe insurance? Matthew Stein, an MIT-trained engineer and green builder, has written 2 outstanding books to help people prepare, plan for, and deal with everything from minor situations lasting a few days to full-on collapse. Matt's first book, When Technology Fails, is a manual for self-reliance, sustainable living, and surviving the long emergency. This massive book covers the gamut from first aid and emergency preparedness to alternative healing, renewable energy, primitive living skills, and 18th century technologies that could be critical to your comfort and survival in a long-lasting crisis. Matt's second book, When Disaster Strikes, is a comprehensive emergency preparedness handbook and survival guide. When Disaster Strikes is an essential item for every family's go bag. Both books are available at all usual sources. There's a wealth of totally free information posted at whentechfails.com, and author-signed copies may be purchased at mattstein.com. That's www.whentechfails.com and www.mattstein.com. You're listening to the X-Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net. Welcome back, everyone. Guy Ruff is our special guest this hour. Guy, is there a website where our listeners can go and find out more about you?
I basically keep myself with LinkedIn.
Okay.
It's too much time to make myself involved in a website, and even being on your talk show was a hard decision for me because, like I said, I've never had my hands on any object to reverse engineer.
Right.
And at the same time, I'm not what you call a scholar, but I have a lot of creative thought, and being a mechanic, I can understand how things are put together. I can look through it and I can see how. I know how a plane is put together.
Sure.
I'm really good at that kind of stuff. And to be on your show was difficult for me because I find that so many people, they come off and they talk about stuff, and it's like I said in the beginning of the program, catch something and paint it green means a lot to me. And I challenge all your listeners to start searching the internet and start with history of the world and start with religious history and start with the thinkers and the doers like Alexandra's library and go back farther. And I felt that the reason why I should be on your program is trying to get people to understand you don't have to be a rocket scientist to stand back and say, now that is strange. How the heck was that done?
Exactly.
And you know, I would like to see more people watch all of the ancient aliens program in history and watch every program of science and listen to programs that talk about NASA's projects. And listen to these programs and take what they say, everything that you read, and figure that only 1% of it has any valid, valid. I mean, it's really difficult for me to say things are fact when I don't have it in my hand.
Well, let me ask you this then. Bud. Tell us about Townsend Brown.
Now, that man there, that's fact.
Yeah.
That man there, you can look him up on the wiki internet. That man, when he was a young boy, he started doing weird stuff. He came into a rich family, and he was interested in electronics right from being young. He had his own ham radio station, and the young man was privileged and went to college, and he had his own lab. He actually had his own lab. I believe he went to L.A. I actually read his book. I've read a lot about this guy. His daughter has a website. I believe I gave you the website.
Yes, you did.
And at that website, you can find out a lot more about him. Like Townsend Brown, to me, was an American hero because he was involved in Area 51. And he was in the Navy long ago. He ran out of money. That's what happened. Some family member that was giving him money basically said, hey, dude, enough. You've spent enough here. But Townsend Brown had some really good ideas. His problem, he's kind of like me. He'd come up with an idea, but he didn't know how to market it. And the bladeless fan, that's been around for a long time. He got that from messing with high voltage systems, and he noticed that the wires kept jumping off the ground. If you put enough voltage to a wire, it'll lift off the ground. And he noticed this. High voltage causes things to lift, and the electrons would cause an interruption in gravity. So one day he was in the Navy. It was during World War II, I believe. He was messing around, and he was scaring his friends. I believe he was in Hawaii. And these big-time officers were standing around, and they're watching him taking these plates. And he would charge these plates up with high voltage, and they would lift off the ground and float. And they're looking at this thing, and they're thinking, holy cow, he discovered anti-gravity. Instantly, made it top secret, absolutely top secret. Well, he worked in submarines. And they had a problem with Townsend Brown. The Navy would not release him. The Navy said, no, he's doing his time. This is war. He's going to stay. He's going to do his time on the submarine. And the United States research facilities were saying, whoa, this man's genius. We need him in our labs. But the Navy wouldn't release him. He was doing surveys on the meridian lines of the Earth. He was going down checking the gravity fields of the Earth in a submarine, assisting. And he was basically running the program, and he was just an ensign. He was just a Peabody soldier. But he ran out of money, and he figured, well, if I go in the Navy, maybe I'll get, the kind of stuff I need to do so I can do my research. So they found these plates. Well, somehow or another, the United States government said, look, dude, we want to finance your thinking, and we're going to give you all you need. Well, he was so secretive, his own family, half the time, didn't know what he was doing. And I believe he lived in Coronado Island, him and his wife, and they would fly him to the military base like once a week. He'd go there, he'd be there all week and come back, or every night. It depends on what's going on. But one time he said to his wife, and this is in his book, he said, "We did it. We made it fly." But he would never tell her what it was. But if you go wiki and you look at the B-1 bomber, the B-2 bomber, they supercharged the forward leading edge of the aircraft with a high voltage, and then the engines can turn off, and they dispel electrons that are like positively charged, negatively charged, that propel the craft through the air without any engines running, just gravitics making it move. It's like taking a balloon, rub it on your head, and stick it on the wall. Mm-hmm. The electrons leave from the capacitor and move to ground, and it holds it on the wall. It holds it. It's kind of like that. I mean, it's really hard to get it through to people. Well, this was the same technology he used for his bladeless fan. That probably a lot of people have this fan in their home. It just uses electrogravitics to move the air through the fan. There's a name for it. I'm talking to you, so I forget stuff what it's called. But this fan was around for a long time. Not only that, he invented the the flat panel speaker. And he actually used these speakers, I believe, during his daughter's wedding or somebody's wedding during a big event. And they couldn't believe how freaking loud these things were. They were like beyond normal loud. And they were like, he could aim them at things. And if you look at the military uses a special panel that they bring to for SWAT team things, where like they'll bring these panels and they bombard the people with sound.
Yeah.
In fact, there was just a riot. Some black young man got killed by a cop, and they rioted just recently. They used those panels there. I couldn't believe when I was watching. They're using military-grade sound blasters at these people. And it caused your equilibrium to just get all of that stuff because it's so loud. And it uses sub-sound levels, sub-sound loud levels to cause your whole body to get sick. And they just direct it right at you, and the crowd, it breaks down your morale. I mean, you can't. How do you riot against something that makes you sick? And Tesla was involved in, and I actually experienced this, and I've been exposed to a lot of weird stuff in my life. My son was chosen for a special thing down in Pittsburgh at the Carnegie Science Center. It was a study of light. I met the men that were responsible for the Philadelphia experiment. And these scientists were there, and you're talking about hair-raising conversation I had with a couple of these guys. But Townsend Brown was involved in that. He was involved in causing, they claim that they believe that they made a ship disappear, but when they reappeared, they had some problems, freaky problems, like men being welded into the ship. Mm-hmm. Their bodies were, part of the ship, or they feel that the ship went into time, back in time or forward. None of this could be substantiated because I wasn't there, but I just know what these scientists told me. And they said that the study of light is the most important science right now for traveling into the universe, because if you look at a planet and it gives off a fluorescent color of blue, well, that's water. And water, when photons hit a molecule of water, it destabilizes the molecule, and it gives off a frequency that can be read by I believe it's called a spectrometer, and they can determine what spectrum it is, and then they can determine if it's hydrogen, they can determine if it's argon, they can determine if it's oxygen. These frequencies of light can tell a spacecraft what is on the planet. Or even the telescopes, we have the telescopes on Earth, or outside Earth, that are floating around, and they're looking at all the stars.
Sure, you're talking about you're talking about the Keebler, and you're talking about the Hubble.
Right, and the Hubble. Now the Hubble, when I was in Seattle, I worked for a place called Sunstrand Data Control, and I was a plater. I made printed circuit boards for the Amex cruise missile, F-16, the Hubble telescope. They were all super top secret programs. I made the first ever 7-layer printed circuit board, the laminated board, and you might think, well, that's no big deal now. I mean, it is no big deal now. I mean, they're making like 60-layer ceramic boards. But the thing with this program is that the Air Force gave me an open check. They said, make this board. Make it. We want it perfect. We want 11 of them. We are going to destroy 2 of them for destructive testing because we need to section cut the holes, to look through the holes to make sure that the printed circuit board layers are laminated and conductive before we put the electronics in. So I had exposure to some crazy stuff at that company where the Pentagon would send letters to the company. The company got like newsprint. It's like a newsprint thing. And we actually stuck in the room and got to read these things because we were kids then. But I was probably 20 years old. I was like a year out of high school. And they came in there and they said, I got really good at this program.
Right.
And I had extreme pride in the Hubble program. The Hubble is like, every time I hear that name said, because I know for a fact there are parts of that satellite that I touched. Yeah,
that's something.
People, yeah, it is. And I've been exposed to a lot of stuff, but like that program in Carnegie Science Center really opened my eyes that there are things going on in this world that a lot of people just don't understand. There is just really weird stuff going on. And the common public is not privy to know unless you have a need to know.
Does the public need to know, or should it be left in the hands of national security?
I think let's do it this way. And kind of got off the subject of kind of where I wanted to go. I have something to bring up that I think every American citizen and every human on this earth should support the Need to Know program. Even President Nixon had a problem with this program, but he was scared to death when they came to him. The CIA came to him and said, hey, the aliens want to talk to you, dude. And Nixon said, no, I'm not talking to them because I'm afraid they'll read my mind. And this is an actual recording. If you can find this recording of him talking about this. And back in Eisenhower days, back when the Majestic 12 was involved, and it's a real organization, the aliens made an agreement to abduct so many humans from Earth. Now, these guys can do what they want. I mean, their abilities are beyond ours. They could wipe us out in a heartbeat. And the reason why our United States government wanted to cooperate with these guys is because their science is so beyond ours. And the aliens knew that if we cooperate with them, they'll get what they want without disturbing the fishbowl effect. The fishbowl effect, 50,000 years ago, if you look at the way we were 50,000 years ago, according to some of the science that I've looked up, and 50,000 years ago, there were 2 humans. This is an actual science program that some professor came up with. And 8,000 years ago, there was 5 million humans. 1 AD, there was 300 million. Now you think about it, that's not a lot of people, really. Okay, now there's, 8 billion of us? We're breeding like rabbits. The thing is, we are so precious. And there was a time in this world where we would dig holes in the ground and go down the ground and roll great big rocks to cover the hole and make it so nobody can get to us. There was a time where we would dig holes inside of mountains, solid rock, and make a little tiny entrance to get inside because we were scared of certain things.
Hey, Guy, I hate to do this, but we've run out of time for tonight. I want to thank you so much for joining us and for sharing your insight.
Really?
Yeah, really. We'll have you back on so we can finish this, okay?
That sounds good. I'd love to cover more, but
you've got a deal, my friend. Hey, listen, thanks very much, Guy. Enjoyed it. Look forward to the next time you're with us, bud. Take care now. Well, that's it for tonight, Exo Nation. I'll be back tomorrow night at 8 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place that I call the X-Zone. So if you can help somebody out, please do. After all, we are our brother's keeper. And always remember to keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.